Tech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on July the 1st in the year of our Lord 2026. All right, we made it to July. Just 4 more days for the 250th anniversary of our independence. 250 years as a nation, the United States of America, and the Democrats are trying to destroy it as quickly as they possibly can. And they have been for decades, incidentally. I've got some great information here for you, so let's go ahead and jump over here to Murtech on Rumble. Let me click this Rumble link here, and this will take you from Murtech.com over to my Rumble channel. Right here it is. Daily News Update. Okay, this is the live stream we're getting into tonight, episode 1965. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Let me pause. Right here it is. Susie Pohl has joined us earlier, and looks like we got GP Woko01 has joined us. Hello, all. I'll get back to you momentarily. Let me close that out and slide down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. And we have information from Shawn Farash. He's filling in for Dan Bongino. We have Vince from the Bongino Report, Doug in Exile, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I do need to give some shout outs here to Kizzy08, just started following my channel. Stephanie22 just started following my channel. K Fries 27 just started following my channel. And Airy Truth just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1964. Debbie BS commented on my episode 1964. Debbie BS commented on my extra 747A. Patio Furniture 63, Debbie BS, and Bev 112 commented on my extra 747B, and Debbie BS commented on my extra 747C. So thank you very much, folks, for reposting my video and for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let's go ahead and give this a thumbs up. There we go. And I want to share a little bonus here with you. My nephew down here at Aunt Sue's house shared this with me, and he said it was some pretty good stuff from George Carlin. Explains exactly what's going on today with the Democrats, and this was done back in the late 90s, like 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
Congratulations.
Let me get back up here if I can.
When your identity is your ideology, congratulations, you've officially screwed yourself, because now it's not just an idea, now it's you. And when the idea gets challenged, you don't hear disagreement, you hear an attack. So what do? You build a bubble, a nice, soft, padded little bubble where everyone agrees with you, uses the same words, hates the same people, and claps at the exact right moments. And you will defend that bubble at all costs, even if it makes you sound incredibly stupid. Facts don't matter anymore. Logic's gone. Humor? Dead. Because admitting you're wrong would mean admitting you are wrong, and that's unacceptable. So you double down, louder, angrier, dumber. And that's how you end up defending nonsense like it's sacred scripture. Not because it's true, but because without it, you'd have to actually develop a personality. When your identity is your ideology.
All right, let's go ahead and jump back here. And that's absolutely right. That's exactly what it seems to be happening these days. Okay, but let's see what Shawn Farash has to say on the Dan Bongino Report. Don't ignore these warnings, episode 2545. Let's check this out. There he is. Okay, it seems like I don't get it. Seems like the audio is not coming through, so let me go ahead and.
Darth Vader did grow balls. Obi-Wan. I know we love our Star Wars over there. Dan said Darth Vader needs to grow balls last Friday, and it was like super dark ending to Return of the Jedi. Darth Vader did grow balls, threw the Emperor down the reactor shaft, right? Whoosh, after screaming no, which was a very bad choice of words there, but that is what it is. We'll file that into the Star Wars grievances folder. Caitlin Collins did the old Obi-Wan. Nah, the Democrat Socialists of America aren't communists. Well, they are, and they're admitting it. We've got that. We've got some little updates on the fraudulency, his fraudulency known as Ro Khanna, a bizarre story out of Massachusetts, although par for the course for Massachusetts. You got to take down your American flags because someone is offended, and it's more than just a Karen this time. New polling data from Harry Enton, and if we have a chance to get to it, it's not necessarily a nice story, but there's a parasite that is loose among the United States. And no, I don't mean European soccer fans. It's an actual microscopic parasite that is causing big issues, especially in the state of New York, where just living there can cause this type of problem. But if we have a chance to get to it, we will. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of today's show, I don't even eat potatoes. I'm a keto guy. Folks, many Americans try weight loss shots, but they quit. Dude, I 20 finish line, handshake, super short at super business. One consult with a bill, right?
There we go.
There it is. We got that big, beautiful. That's a big, beautiful bill. What a beautiful thing, I have to say. And to my right, of course, is the lovely Brennan, my wife here, and she's alone. She is always. There's a soundboard. We have a brand new, huge soundboard now. So anything can happen over there, and it could be little Obi-Wan, a little hello there, right? A little Obi-Wan Kenobi. All right, let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. Don't give up on America, please. It may sound like, oh, you're really begging this early in the morning. No, don't give up on America. I saw this yesterday after the birthright citizenship ruling. I'm not thrilled with it. I'm not like, the Supreme Court's doing a fantastic job. No, I'm frustrated. The mail-in ballot ruling, I thought Watson versus RNC was going to go our way. I was filling in on Florida's Voice last week. We had the Election Integrity Communications Director, Ali Triolo, on with us, and she thought it was going to go our way also. Unfortunately, Amy Coney Barrett had other ideas, and John Roberts as well. People get on me all the time. Well, why are you just focusing on Amy Coney Barrett? Is this something like you like a misogynist? No, but she wrote the opinion. She wrote the majority opinion. So I'm going to focus on naturally the author of it. Okay. Plus, she was a Trump appointee, and I'm going to split the baby here on my criticism of the Supreme Court in a second. But my point here is don't give up on America. There is nothing that the left wants more. Dan talks about this all the time. I talk about this all the time on my show, rumble.com/LFA-TV. By the way, I have the toughest job in the world. I have to stream at the same time as Dan Bongino. There's a football stadium worth of people watching Dan all the time. By the way, it's worth it. I love it. I've been listening to Dan, watching Dan since episode 628. All the way back into the Spygate era, where there wasn't even a video show at that point. So I get it, but I have the toughest job in the world. I got to stream at the exact same time as the Podfather. It's tough. I'm not the Podfather. He is the Podfather, and obviously extremely grateful for the opportunity to fill in today. But he talks about demoralization all the time. Yuri Bezmenov, the KGB whistleblower, talked about that as well. When you demoralize somebody, people think of demoralizing as like, oh, you're just sad, your morale is low, you're pessimistic, but it's even deeper than that. When you're demoralized, as Yuri Bezmenov had put it, you are essentially just you don't accept facts, right? You'll get to a point where you'll find yourself saying, well, is water actually wet, or is that just what the official government narrative wants us to believe, right? Like that crap. It's like the movie Inception, which is one of my favorites, right? Where, Leonardo DiCaprio's character plants the seed in his wife's head that, quote, this world is not real, in order to have her want to wake up from the dream. But then it translates into real life. She starts believing that this world is not real and that she's dreaming. She kills herself in the movie. Like, you don't want to wind up going down that road. You don't want to get demoralized to the point of disillusionment, where you're now believing in an entirely alternate set of facts, an entirely different reality than the one that we all actually exist in, where water is wet, up is up, down is down, the grass is green, the sky is blue, and 2 + 2 is 4. You know, we're getting to the point where some of these guys, you know, you get like, and we're going to debut it here, the Alex Jones of the world. Well, 2 + 2 is 4, but I could be the official government now. It could be a deep state psyop. I believe in math. Math is a deep state psyop. Cash Patel's going to be fired.
He's the one that the frogs are gay.
Yeah, he's the frogs are gay guy. Yeah. They turned the frickin' frog gay, right? That guy. And unfortunately, if you take that man-child seriously, I don't know what to tell you. You're controlling him every day on X. He said on April 2nd that Cash Patel was going to be fired. So every day I'm coming in there. It's been 89 today. I think it's been 90 days since he said Cash Patel was being fired today. 90. See, people are like, why are you doing that? Because nobody holds these idiots accountable when they get things wrong. This is the data point crowd, right? You know, the whole thing with Joe Kent. Nobody comes back to see, hey, you predicted like World War III. That's a data point. Exactly. There it is. But back to the point here, because this is what I'm talking about, demoralization. You've got folks who you think you can trust. Again, back to Yuri Bezmenov. You get Americans teaching Americans about communism. You get Americans demoralizing Americans about our country. Don't throw your hands up in frustration and walk away from this fight over these recent Supreme Court rulings. That is not the answer. You got a flat tire on your car, right? You don't just go, damn it, my tire's flat. This sucks. And start walking around, stomping around the road. But eventually you have to change the tire, right? Acknowledging a problem, tire's flat, roof is leaking, things of that nature. Like, acknowledging the problem is good. You acknowledge a problem exists, right? The first step to quitting is admitting. But you've got to provide a solution for those problems too. You can't just walk away in frustration and act like the problem is going to fix itself. It's not. You can't do that. These are bad Supreme Court rulings, 2 of them, birthright citizenship and Watson, mail-in ballots. But I want to be very, 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 very clear and give you some perspective here. While it is frustrating to see these rulings, nothing has changed. What do you mean nothing has changed? No, nothing has changed. We're playing by the same rules that we were playing by before these rulings were handed down. The same set of rules. The mail-in ballots, it's still an issue. It didn't get better, but it's the same rules. Nothing changed. So this idea that somehow these rulings are the end of the world is absurd. It's over-emotional. It's absurd. It's not healthy. And it's a lifeline to the left while they're in shambles. Guys, this DSA takeover of the Democrat Party is very serious. And it's not just an existential threat to our country, because it is, because communists are getting closer and closer to power, but it is an existential threat to establishment or moderate or blue dog Democrats on their side of the aisle. And this is why, and I've been talking about this for a while too, ever since last Tuesday, this is why it was so important. Folks like myself, my friend Misfit Patriot, who's streaming over on LFA TV now right before me at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And so many, James Lindsay, the Mark Levins of the world, Dan Bongino, et cetera. We've called out the crazies on our side, because if we didn't, we would be suffering the same fate that moderate blue dog, Kennedy, Clinton Democrats are suffering now. You can't look at, if you know something is a problem, you can't look at it and then ignore it. That's not the way you solve problems. You call it out, you address it, and you move on. That's why it was so important for us to call out the crazies and to point out that they're being crazy and to show you, hey, you're going to blame everything on the Jews. It's one thing to criticize the government of Israel. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the policies out there and some of the political leaders out there. I believe the country has a right to exist. There are people who are, their whole life is like it doesn't have a right to exist. That's not welcome on our side of the aisle. Criticism of another country as well. Calling for the entire country to cease to exist because you don't like the religion, or that's silly. That's crazy. These are the people who are supposedly against genocide, by the way.
Okay, I'm going to pause that here. And I wanted to share this with you, number one, because I like Shawn Farash. I mean, he's on LFA. I mean, they have like a 12-hour long. It's. I would like to share more of him. He doesn't have his own individual uh, podcast that I can find. He does have a channel. I've had someone say, "Okay, this is his channel." Well, I've gone there. He hasn't posted anything for 8 months. So okay. I mean, I want the current stuff, but he's talking exactly the message that I wanted to relay to you. Nothing's changed. Yeah, these were shitty decisions, but is anything any different today than what it was yesterday? Yeah, some of these states, I guess there's like 17 of them that have these mail-in ballot rules. They had them yesterday. They had them last month. They're going to have them next month. Okay? All right? Nothing's gotten worse. You know, and the thing on birthright citizenship, okay, that's been going on since the 14th Amendment was put in the 1860s or 1870s. I'm not sure exactly when that went in, but it's this. Nothing has changed there. We just have to focus. We've got to focus, folks, on sharing the truth out with other people. I'm sharing it with you, hoping you will share it with others. Okay, there's a share button that you can click and share this on Facebook or Truth Social or whatever. But that's what we need to focus on, sharing the truth out and getting people out to vote so that we can get some of these rhinos and desk Democrats out of office. The backstabbing rhinos. That's the ones I'm talking about. Though all of them are bad, but we need to focus on the ones that are stabbing Donald Trump and the MAGA movement in the back, like Thune. Okay? All right, let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from the Dan Bongino show. I will have this video in my daily news wrap-up. If you want to see more of it, come back here when I start that live stream. Okay, let me jump back here. And I've got my baby here that I need to give a hug goodnight to. All right, we're at Aunt Sue's. That's why we're running late tonight. And the kids, and that's why we're running late, because the kids stay up late playing tonight. Are playing down at Aunt Sue's. Okay, that was Alina and LMA. All right, now that we've got the important stuff out of the way, let's get to some news and information. Jump down here to Vince on the Bongino report. Here we go. And he says the Supreme betrayal. Again, folks, you know, there's going to be people that are pissed off because it didn't change. You know, that's true. It didn't change. But we got to focus on, you know, there's other things that need to take place. Okay? Episode 322. Let's see what Vince has to say. Oh, that's an interesting look on his face.
Yeah, what a disaster of a court decision yesterday. Now, there were some good court decisions yesterday, including protecting women's sports. We love that. I can get into the details on that coming up. But I want to start with the thing that's got me and probably you absolutely apoplectic. This idea that American citizenship can just be handed out like candy to any foreign national who pours across our border and has a baby. Any foreign national who decides to fly here explicitly just to have an unearned American baby and then immediately fly back to mainland China. A situation where a Chinese national could fly to Guam, have a baby, and then fly back to China with an American citizen. What? That's insane. You ask any normal person on the street, is that the arrangement that we should have as a country? And the answer to that is not just no, it's hell no. American citizenship should mean something. American citizenship should be for the children of Americans. The founders knew this really clearly, and the drafters of the 14th Amendment knew this very clearly as well. In fact, the 14th Amendment, which is what the debate is all about, need I remind you, was about affording equal protection to all Americans, and yes, including Black Americans, former slaves and their children, in the picture of what it means to be an American. The 13th Amendment the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment were all designed to make sure that Black Americans were in no way excluded from this country, that they were included. And the protections afforded by those amendments extend to every American. That's the point. And yet the left has manipulated this, mutilated this, distorted this so far beyond recognition that they're just handing out American citizenship like anybody can grab it if they can make it across the finish line. Like it's a big game of capture the flag. And there's a lot of people who are capturing that flag. A lot. I want you to understand the numbers here. Because sometimes, you just do the math on this and you start to realize, you're like, holy crap, what is going on in our country? So let me start with the horrific news for native-born Americans. We have population decline. In fact, the birth rate is not even keeping up with keeping the population at a stable number for native-born Americans. That's something that we should be addressing head on here in the United States. That's a crisis that we have to deal with. We are, each year, aborting 1 million of our own people. 1 million American babies every year are dying in our country as the left pushes that genocide on our people. In fact, Black Americans, the aforementioned group Black Americans, are in particular targeted by the abortion industry in America. 40% of the Black population is aborted every year, murdered every single year in our country. There's no civil rights marches for that. There's no huge protests in American news media about this. Hollywood is not filming movies about this genocide. It's happening in many cases very quietly, but it's horrific what's going on. And then in terms of who's coming into the country, the population is still going up. So how is that possible? What's going on? Well, it's immigration. It's both legal and illegal immigration. Start with legal. Each year, 1 million legal immigrants have been welcomed into the country on average. 1 million legal. So we abort 1 million Americans and we import 1 million legal immigrants into the United States each year. How dystopian does that sound? Well, it's real. It's happening every single year. Under the Biden administration, we brought in a lot of illegal aliens too. Remember that? Yeah. Estimates are all over the place because it's hard to pin down how many illegal aliens we actually let in in that horrific time period and prior to that. But during the Biden administration, there are projections that anywhere between 12 and 20 million illegal aliens came into the country during just that 4-year window. So take the low end estimate. Let's pretend for a moment it's 12 million is the real number. Well, if that's the case, what's happening is each year we brought in 3 million illegal aliens on average. 3 million. So you get 3 million illegals, 1 million legal. And then how many babies are all of those combined migrants, legal or illegal, having each year? Well, the numbers there are typically, historically, around 300,000 a year. 300,000 babies. Those 300,000 are instantly granted American citizenship, whether or not their parents broke the law. 300,000. 10% of those, around 30,000, are birth tourists. People who just fly into the country to have an American baby and then immediately flee and then are forever tethered to the United States, drawing on American taxpayer resources and able to get citizenship by way of something called chain migration for the rest of the family, thanks to that one child now having American citizenship, unearned. So you do the math on this and you're looking at it and you're going, wow, wait a second. So we're killing 1 million people a year in the United States, and then we're importing 4.3 million foreign nationals every year? Do you see what the problem is here?
You get your
Do you
vitamins?
see what the problem is? When you start putting the math to this, you realize not only is this a problem, it's a crisis of epic proportions. Manufactured by definitely the left and an establishment Washington that for far too long has been betraying the American people. And so yesterday's Supreme Court decision is one of the supreme indignities to be stacked on top of this country. Because the court, led by Chief Justice John Roberts, made a decision yesterday that went beyond merely maintaining the status quo. This has already been a massive problem. It's been going on for a long time. But instead of just saying, hey, if you're going to fix this problem, Congress can fix it, they went a step further. Now, I'm going to let the lawyers, and I'll talk to John Eastman about this coming up too, handle what exactly the path forward can be and how we can handle this legally. We got a lot of things coming out of Congress right now about this subject. But yesterday, it's hard to miss the fact that the majority opinion in the case found that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution does confer, they said affirmatively, American citizenship on illegal aliens. That's insane. Why would you say that? At least in the case of Brett Kavanaugh's sort of dissenting, sort of concurring opinion on the subject yesterday, Kavanaugh came out and said, hey, the president's executive order was wrong because we have statutes that say it's wrong, but this could be addressed by Congress. That's not what the majority opinion said. But Kavanaugh is trying to basically open a door for us to have an option as we go forward here. But this was a complete betrayal. So not only was it a terrible decision, it was kind of the worst case scenario decision yesterday. And so in that way, I'm not trying to dishearten you. I'm just trying to tell you this is exactly what happened. And it's horrific. It's horrific. Now, it was a 5-4 decision. Who was in the dissent? Who led the dissent? Well, the dissent was led by our greatest justice, Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas is clearly furious about this. He thinks that the Supreme Court will come to rue the day that they made this decision yesterday. And he wrote extensively about this, which is wonderful. And he's such a clear and thoughtful writer. We love Clarence Thomas. But he unloaded yesterday. He went absolutely scorched earth on all of this. And he said that the 14th Amendment was enacted specifically for free slaves. I want people to dwell on this point because it really is the central point of the 14th Amendment. Here I am quoting directly from Clarence Thomas. This is in the dissent yesterday. The 14th Amendment was enacted in the wake of the Civil War with the one pervading purpose of securing equal citizenship for the freed slaves. It was enacted, as Justice Harlan wrote, to secure to a race recently emancipated the civil rights that other citizens enjoyed. The court has time and again denied Americans this promise. Shortly after the amendment was ratified, this court deprived black citizens of the right to peaceably assemble and to keep and bear arms. A little later in Plessy versus Ferguson, the court upheld the subjugation of black citizens in the form of state-coerced racial segregation. When it had an opportunity to correct that profound error, it did so narrowly in Brown versus Board of Education. It then used that very decision to justify busing American children to different schools based on their race. And until recently, this court continued to selectively enforce our colorblind Constitution, including by allowing state-coerced racial discrimination in public education and compelling states to draw political districts on the basis of race. It's a disaster, in other words. This keeps happening. Meanwhile, the court has repurposed the 14th Amendment to protect its own set of preferred rights that the Reconstruction Congress never contemplated, and that cannot find support in its text. Today, the court does so again by recognizing a constitutional right to citizenship for the children of all foreign birth, tourists, and illegal aliens. I am not sure that today's opinion will stand the test of time. The citizenship clause added greatly to the dignity and glory of American citizenship. Today's opinion devalues that citizenship. I respectfully dissent.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here and move on. This video will be in my daily news wrap-up. But then again, folks, yes, it was a dumbass decision. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but we're no worse off today than what we were yesterday. Nothing's changed. We just have to continue to work on it. Folks, I've said this numerous times before, but I'll say it again. Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex, the deep state, back in 1961, 65 years ago, okay, when he left office. He was president, got elected in 52, took office in 53, was president from 53 to 61. And yeah, he learned a lot of things. He took over from Truman, the guy that created the CIA, dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, the guy that started the Korean War. The Democrats always talk about how the Republicans are the warmongers. Okay, Woodrow Wilson got us into World War One, Democrat. Franklin D. Roosevelt got us into World War II, Democrat. Then good old Truman dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, destroying 2 cities and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And then he got us into the Korean War. Lyndon Baines Johnson's Democrat, got us into the Vietnam War. Okay, so the Republicans are the warmongers, though. That's what they want you to believe. They're lies. That's why I give you this information here from people that tell the truth, so you will know what's going on behind the scenes and hopefully share this out with others. Let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Vince on the Bongino report. Okay?
It's a disaster.
This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. But remember, if it was a disaster, that's true. But there's nothing different from today than what there was yesterday. I mean, the whole court situation there was to change what was happening. Well, it didn't change. It's still shitty. It was shitty yesterday, and it's shitty today. It was shitty last week. It's shitty today on those situations. All right, let's jump back here. And we've got a lot of good chatting in here, folks. A lot of good chatting in here. I wish more people would chat me up. I enjoy that. Okay, Doug in Exile. Mike Johnson ends Democrats in 3.6 cents. Now, I'm thinking that's probably a typo in his title. I'm thinking that's probably like 3.6 seconds. I'm not sure what a send is, 3.6 cents, but hey, that's beside the point. He's got good information. Let's listen to it.
Speaker Mike Johnson ends the Democrats in about 2.5 seconds. Of course, he also ends the Republicans in about 2.5 seconds, sending them all home. This is actually good news for MAGA because we're getting our way partially. The problem was he promised to do a vote today, but a lot of Republicans said, we want the SAVE Act now more than ever. And so all these other bills that Speaker Mike Johnson was bringing up, they just said, we're going to vote no on it. So he ran up the rules and said, how many Republicans want to stay and work and how many want to go home? And it's not as easy as saying, well, they wanted to go home, so they don't want to do their job. No, they're actually doing their job defending the SAVE Act and defending Americans. They said, so the normal split would be half Republicans and half Democrats. A bunch of Republicans went and voted with the Democrats to shut the place down and go on a 2-week vacation over the 4th of July if they weren't going to bring up and attach the SAVE Act to the budget. That was Rep. Anna Paulina Luna came in and said, I'm not going to vote. So basically they joined the Democrats to shut it down. Chip Roy voted to shut it down. So it's not, it's not just as all of our politics, as we're learning from the Supreme Court, is not as easy as just one vote, because let me tell you when they went on vacation, what Speaker Mike Johnson wanted to bring up, but couldn't. We were going to cut funding to Ukraine. We were going to nationally ban transgender sports from sports. So if it goes back to the states, which the Supreme Court said today, there's not a national right for a trans person to play in a sport. There are still states that can allow them to play with their permission. Well, Trump's ban that Speaker Mike Johnson wanted them to vote on today would have prevented that. And then Anna Paulina Luna said there's something much more important than the trans thing or even stopping funding to your aid, and that's the SAVE Act. So she voted with the Democrats to shut the whole thing down. And I approve of this because technically it is good news to, I believe, shut down the government over the SAVE Act, certainly keep shutting down the Democrats over the SAVE Act, because today a nuclear bomb went off in the Supreme Court. I've argued, I explained the whole thing on why it is probably constitutional, why I agree with Clarence Thomas in his dissent that there's no way the founders knew the groundwork of what would happen. However, the literal text agrees with the final decision. The problem with America's immigration system is the 14th Amendment. And that goes all the way back over 100 years. And you're not going to be able to change the Constitution with an amendment. It's only been done, 27 times in all of our history? Because you can't get a 2/3 majority to agree to amend the Constitution. It was made to be deliberately difficult. And now there's enough Democrats that need illegal birthright citizenship here to secure the voters 18 years from now. They want a bunch of anchor babies here that are going to be legal voting system, or there's nothing that Republicans can try. We can try to convince illegals to vote Republican. Very difficult to do, especially when they're from socialist countries. But I'm only saying you're not going to change that Constitution. Realistically, I don't think you can get 2/3 of them you couldn't get 2/3 of them to agree that America was a great country. Like, there's much easier things that they wouldn't even agree on. So they're not going to agree on that. So Speaker Mike Johnson gave his speech today, and he came out and addressed the press. And this is before he was able to read the decision that went against, that supported birthright citizenship in America. And the media said, Speaker Mike Johnson, would you like to comment on the Supreme Court case, and birthright citizenship? And he said, well, I haven't read the opinion. And they said, but can you give us a comment? Do you believe that people born here have a right to citizenship, as the Supreme Court argued the Constitution says? And I thought he came out very bold in a way that absolutely destroys Democrats. He said, I disagree with that opinion. He said, I believe they believe that wrongly, that the citizens coming here and using up all of our welfare and all that stuff, that there's no way the founders meant that. It wasn't done by the founders. This is done in the 1800s in addressing slaves and addressing Chinese railroad slaves that had babies here, that said we want citizenship. And that Supreme Court back then said, yes, you can have citizenship if you're born here. They didn't imagine the new system where we're not bringing in slave labor. Biden just opened the walls up and allowed every illegal, at least 11 million of them, to come in here. And now if they drop a baby, if 2 illegal parents have a baby, that baby's a citizen. That's what was decided. Now, the only way you can change that decision is if you change the makeup of the court. And I mean, it would have to be a radical change, which goes back to my theory that Trump should pack the Supreme Court the way the Democrats would. We should just simply appoint 15 justices and make sure that they're all against birthright citizenship. There can be no litmus test, of course, in who we pick, but you can get a feel of it. Because it wasn't even close, guys. It was 6-3. 6-3. And no, Justice Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, and Kavanaugh also don't believe it was a good thing that it was written that way in the Constitution. They're just saying that it was written that way in the Constitution. They don't even agree with it, but they're saying that's what the Constitution means. And you can't put your meaning into those words, or you're doing what the Democrats do. It becomes a living, breathing Constitution. It's worthless. So the only other way you could do it is if the split right now is 6-3, you'd have to offset. So forget the liberal justices, they're lunatics, right? Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. The three women, the three witches are lunatics. You have to either convince Amy Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, and Roberts they made a mistake, or replace them. You know what I mean? Not replace the three liberals. Our problem is we have to replace three of the conservatives to get a 6-3 decision. We'll actually need a 5-4 decision. So you just need two changes. So let's say that you changed Roberts and Barrett. I would change Roberts and Barrett. But you can't impeach them. You can't get rid of them unless you go with the Democrats, and that can always backfire. So you'd have to get rid of, or Sotomayor would be good to get rid of, and Kagan. Sotomayor and Kagan, if they retire, and we put in 2 anti-birthright citizenship judges, this thing could get revisited and reversed. I don't know how quickly those ladies are going to retire, but let's get J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio in office in 2028 first, just in case. What do you guys think? Did Mike Johnson do the right thing to shut down? He said they don't have the votes on anything because of the SAVE Act. He supports the SAVE Act. He saw that no one's going to vote on anything. In fact, many of the votes won't go our way if Republicans vote against it. I think it was a good move. I think it backfired on the Democrats. I think they don't realize how strongly we need the SAVE Act now to make sure that illegals can't vote, much less the babies that are born here who are legally going to be able to vote in 18 years. Guys, the clock starts. We have 18 years before they start reproducing, voting you out of office. That includes anyone from England who overstays a legal visa. They can have a baby here, and we're not going to split up the family. We're not going to deport the baby citizen and the parents and then keep the baby here. So this is a mess. This is a constitutional crisis, a constitutional mess. We're not going to fix it at the constitutional level. We have to either pull out another decision, challenge it in a different way. For instance, sue the Chinese guy that knocked up 10,000 women and tried having them have their babies here. That might be a different lawsuit case where they can go back and kind of push back on the exploitation of birthright citizenship. Most important is what you guys think. Let me know what you think. I'm Doug in Exile. Does birthright citizenship stay for good? What's your answer around it?
I have no idea. It's all going to depend on what's happening in this next election for sure. Because if the Democrats can get control of the House, then nothing's going to happen. Nothing will definitely change. That's for sure. Nothing will ever get better. It will only get worse. Okay? But this video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his YouTube channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty then. Let's jump back here. And, all right, we got some good chats here. I wish some other people would join in. Let's see what Wendy Bell has to say on Democrat Civil War. Okay. Nice little thumbnail there. That donkey split apart. Now, something that I just want to throw this in here. I don't know when the Democrat Party changed their name from Democrat Party to the Democratic Party. I remember when I was younger, it was the Democrat Party. I don't know how they got it changed or when that happened to the Democratic Party, but there's nothing frickin' democratic about that party. That's for sure. You can see about what's going on, what went on in California. They're still counting the frickin' votes out there. That's not democratic, sorry. It's just another one of their lies. Okay, let's see what Wendy, I just had to get that off my chest. Sorry, folks. Let's see what Wendy has to say.
It's one thing to watch what is going on with your opponent. And I usually like to think of the Democrats as my enemy. And maybe that's not a very healthy thing. But after what they've put us through in the last handful of years, after what they dragged the Trump family through, after what they put Rudy Giuliani through and others, I look at them as my enemy. That might not be very healthy, but it makes sense in my mind. I'm going to soften that stance today because I think what's going on the left, while interesting, I'm not sitting here celebrating this lunge towards socialism, but I am saying that it's the Democrats' own damn fault. This is the party that installed Joe Biden. People didn't vote Joe Biden in. All right. If you're still on the fence about that or your head is still buried, please wake up. They put an unpopular old man known for years for being a mental midget and a mediocre political person. They put him in because he and his crime family syndicate are corrupt. Joe was demented. He was a placeholder. Through him and his auto pen, all things crazy could be done. The borders could be open. Millions of people could come here. They could flood our cities, put us in danger, kill our sons and daughters, and pretend, well, that's just the way it goes. We don't have any power to stop it. And that's exactly what we've got. They created this mess. Whomever the puppeteer is behind the scenes with the marionette strings, this is your payday. You have now given birth to a fringe group that wants to destroy, not Republicans, I don't believe. They want to destroy Democrats because they're pissed. They're pissed that they gave the whole Democrat Party a loser of a president, a lackey of a vice president, and still, who do they have as a palette of candidates to make changes in the future? Nobody. Billionaires, millionaires, people who don't fit the mold, who don't speak to the young people, who, by the way, by and large, 85% are white, 80% are college educated, and they claim, as the Democratic Socialists of America, to represent the working class. Well, that's super interesting. And I want to read you just a couple paragraphs of a story that I think, an op-ed that I think you're going to find very interesting. And it's an opinion piece in the New York Times today. And here's what it says: a working class party without many workers. Don't you hate it when people who've never had a job, who've never balanced a budget, who've never had to manage all of the tax implications of growing a budget and growing a business, who've never stayed awake at night, chewing their fingernails to the quick because they don't know if they have enough to make it another month? Don't you hate it when those people try to finger wag you and tell you what's good for you and what's not? New York Times calling it out is pretty solid. Candidates aligned with the Democrat Socialists of America, my friends, are surging to victory on the claim that they are proponents of a government by, for, and of the working class that will wrest power from both far-right Republicans and corporate Democrats. But here's the problem. Most leadership of the DSA and a majority of voters who back its candidates are in no way working class. Instead, this elite made up of well-educated professionals dominates this insurgency. The DSA's agenda, in turn, is packed with policies supported by left-wing liberals, white progressives in particular, but strongly opposed by both white and minority working class, defined in pollster shorthand as non-college educated voters. These policies include more or less open borders, defunding police, abolishing immigrations and customs enforcement, as well as support for an array of transgender rights. Did you know that in a 2021 DSA survey of its own members, it found 85% were non-Hispanic white, which is far greater than the national population, 57.8% white back in 2020. 9% were Hispanic, 5% Asian American, and 4% Black. Beyond that, 4% of the members held blue-collar jobs. I'm going to say that again. 4, cuatro for our Spanish-speaking friends. 4% of its members, of the Democratic Socialists of America, held blue-collar jobs. Meantime, nearly 6 out of 10 held professional jobs. The remainder were students or were unemployed or disabled. 80% of the members, 25 and older, had college degrees, and 35% had a master's degree. Don't tell me this ideology wasn't created by the left because of their hatred and vitriol for Donald Trump. Resist Trump at all costs. He's a Nazi, he's a fascist, blah, 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 blah. He's a king. That spawned this group of ne'er-do-well products from public education that failed upwards into college and even further into graduate school. And these are the people who don't have real jobs, in fact, don't have jobs probably, who are finger wagging you. That's one side of this, ladies and gentlemen, right? On the other side, what is the president of the United States doing? Freaking masterclass. It's 9D chess, ladies and gentlemen. We're well beyond 4 dimensions here. All right. We're out into another level. New York Post headline: Trump confirms GOP will hold midterm convention in Dallas in September. Are you kidding me? This has never been done before. A GOP convention for the midterms. And it's so curious that they would choose Texas, isn't it? President Trump confirmed Tuesday that the Republican Party will host an unusual midterm convention in Dallas, September 9th and 10th. The location and the dates for the event, designed to drum up enthusiasm for GOP candidates ahead of the November 3 election, were first reported by Bloomberg News. Big news! This is what Trump wrote on Truth. For the first time ever, the Republican Party will hold a midterm convention. It will be in Dallas, one of my favorite places in the world. He says it will be fantastic. It's never been done before, and it will be a truly historic event, the president continued. We're going to celebrate the great American comeback and the incredible successes of the American people who transformed our country through the America First agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, stronger borders, safer ever communities, lower costs and real affordability, more jobs, American energy dominance, and so much more. He goes on to talk about oil prices dropping sharply, even as we denuclearize Iran. Do you see what he's doing? As the Democrats are having a civil war over here, and you've got long-term incumbents now, like the 15-term woman who was just booted from Colorado from the House. Oh, we're going to talk about that race in just a minute. These Democrats know it's game on. Now, look, if you're a black voter and you've never voted Republican, if you're a Jewish person, 65%, 70% register as Democrats. If you're working class of any capacity, if you're literally Hispanic, Asian, what the hell are the Democrats selling you? They're telling you to stay calm, stay home, stay safe, give us money. We're going to tax the billionaires. We're going to open up all of the prisons. We're going to get rid of ICE. We're going to defund the police, and it's going to be great. These people who are common sense, who used to be with the Democrat Party, aren't going to have anywhere to go. They're going to be orphans. And there's going to be a very big tent in Dallas, Texas, 2 days in September. And the president is saying, come check us out. You might not like me, but I guarantee you're going to hate what's coming your way if you go on the left. Brilliant. So you go ahead, Democrats. You go ahead. Chew on that. We have a convention to plan. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, my friends, a Democrat socialist beats a 15-time Democrat incumbent in Colorado. Do you think the DNC is paying attention now? I'm going to go with C next.
All right, there you have it, folks. Let's move this up here and see what else she's got.
There you have. I'm going to be able to
some
bring
good
it.
stuff.
What kind of machines?
Always good truth from Wendy.
Ho, 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 it's magic, you know.
Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. You know, this surge in people associating as socialist, If there was anything that kind of gave rise to it, it's everything that you and I, if you're a common sense conservative person, the way I am, the same thing that we didn't like about the Democrat Party. They don't listen. They don't listen. They don't care. They didn't take stock of what their voters were saying. Their voters didn't want open borders. Their voters didn't want to feel unsafe. Their voters did not want freaking Joe Biden. And then after he had to slither away because it came out in the debate that he was right, everything that we saw, they gave the Democrats Kamala Harris. They didn't give him a choice. There was no primary. There was no option. You didn't have a voice. The door was closed in their faces. And the primarily white progressive wing of the Democrat Party was like, that's it. Enough. And this is where we are. And so last night in Colorado, here's your headline. A Democrat socialist unseats a 15-term congresswoman in Colorado, a 68-year-old broad. 15 terms, almost 30 years. 30 years. Bye-bye. Uprooted by a 29-year-old who's like, yeah, I don't really like what you're doing. And everyone's like, I agree. I'm going to vote with you. What? Is this literally all it takes? So I had to do a phonetic pronunciation. Milad Kiros, 29-year-old Democratic socialist and first-time candidate, ousted Democratic Rep Diana DeGette. Is that how you say her name? I don't care. Of Colorado in a primary challenge yesterday. DeGette, 15-term incumbent, first elected in 1996, is the second member of Congress to lose her seat to a younger Democrat socialist challenger after Daria Liza Villa-Chevalier unseated Representative Adriano Espaillat, the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in New York's 13th district last week. Oh, by the way, August 4th is a really big date. It's like 12 states primaries. And there's one in particular in Florida that's being closely watched. And it looks like this whole situation and Democrat could go down there as well. Chevalier's and Kiros's challenges come amid widespread discontent and frustration among Democratic voters with party leadership in the wake of President Donald Trump's election. He was the trigger that got them all going, right? Both Espaillat and DeGette are longtime progressives whom their opponents cast as representatives of, listen to this, a failing Democratic establishment beholden to corporate interests. Chevalier and Kiros both have a history of pro-Palestine activism and made opposing Israel's war in Gaza central to their campaigns. I want you to hear what she had to say. And then I wonder what your thoughts are about this, because this woman, 29, not a professional politician, she said something about 9/11, and a reporter asked her about it. And this is, I believe, the answer that got a lot of eggs in her basket, and it's scary. Listen.
Do you believe that the 9/11 terrorist attacks on America were the inevitable consequence of American foreign policy?
Inevitable in the sense that we destabilized a lot of the Middle East, that forced people to believe that another act of violence was the only response. And again, just like I said before, our responsibility is to getting rid of those conditions that lead to violence in the first place.
So America is responsible for 9/11. What she said resonates with some people. And hear me out on this. Do you believe our government has ever been clean? I trust this iteration of it presently, but I don't think it's squeaky. I think around the world, America is seen as meddlers, kingmakers, regime overthrowers, government installers. And that what she just said resonates with a lot of people on the left. It's scary to me because I remember 9/11. She doesn't. She was just a kid. I was a television reporter covering it. You guys remember? The images wall to wall. People covered in that soot, that ash, the concrete dust of those two towers coming down, the desperation of people walking around like zombies in New York City with sandwich boards, with pictures of their loved ones saying, please, have you seen my husband? Have you seen my daughter? Help me find them. 3,000 people. The Democrat Party now seems like it is no longer unburdened by what has been. They're being replaced. They're being replaced by a group of people cultivated, given birth to by the Democrat Party. The Democrats used them, told them stuff, sold them a bill of goods it didn't deliver. Under the Democrats, everything cost more. And the American dream started slipping through people's fingers. Whatever this young lady believes, there's going to be a hell of a reckoning in November. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, the anti-incumbent wave sweeping America, and it just took down a 3-term Democrat senator from Colorado. Pay attention. We'll be back right after this on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, great information here. I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. This is the video I've shared with her. I'm following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and let me copy these live chats into a comment. And folks, it'd be great if some other people would let me know that you're watching. Let me know what you would like to see, your favorite podcaster or whatever. That would be great. It would help me be able to put these shows together if I knew what you guys would like to hear. So thank you very much for your chats, Foxy Grandma and GP Wolco01 and Debbie BS and She and Susie Pohl. Thank you all so very much for your chats. Let me give that a click and get it permanent. Okay, these videos that I've shared with you here are videos that come directly from the producer's channel. I've got the links to the videos here in the description box, as well as the links to the channels themselves. Now, these videos come directly from the producer, and I share these videos on Murtec.com. The direct link to the videos and the producer's channel. I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos here. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. So there you have that. And I'd like to share all of this information with you. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to do so. But that's why I've put together my Murtec Daily News Wrap-Up playlist. It says I have 20 videos in here, about 9 or 10 hours worth of great information. Again, from Wendy Bell, Dan Bongino Show, We the People News. I believe I have the Bongino report in here with Vince, but we have X22 report. There it is, right down there. I'll have to move that up to the top. On the Fringe, Steve Day's Show, AP for Liberty, a ton of great information. But as of right now, go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink, or a beer. Maybe some nice wine and cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes so I can get this set up in Rumble Studio. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.